All right, Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory into Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Ruach double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, rule and teach well. And also peace and safety to the Akim that spread across the four corners of the world. Just pushing out this truth with all diligence and putting their lives on the line to do so. And the brother Karatazai, our Great Millstone, Atlanta. Just back at you again with another brief lesson. Just going into the topic of not being a mama's boy. First and foremost, the Lord, He raised us, to be men. He called us to be men. It's like it. The Lord called us to be men. And we should have that understanding. Scriptures, tells us to have our loins girded. What's that in Ephesians, the 6th chapter? Especially in the times that we're in. These, emotional, effeminate, men, are going to ultimately, be the ones that, is being, tricked and seduced, by Satan, and ultimately is going to be the cause of their downfall. So without further ado, I'm going to start off in Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus chapter 3 and verse 9. It says, "For the blessing of the father established the house of the children." All right. Now we all know through the Willie Lynch letter, that it was, Esau's plan to divide the household, to cause division between the mother and the father and the kids. All right, to where the father is being exiled, especially in the so-called black, Latinos, and Native American household. The fathers, a lot of times, majority of the times, are kicked out, at an early age, dealing with the kids. All right. But the scriptures say that the father established the house. So a lot of upbringing, these children, no, specifically speaking on, boys now, these young boys don't have guidance. They don't have a foundation because of their upbringing. They're raised by their, grandmother or, their mom, with no father that's present, So their house was never established. Rules got broken. There weren't consequences. Their mom was their best friend. She bringing men in and out the house, and there's no foundation there, man. But when the father is present, he establishes rules, order, guidance. Just as in the spiritual aspect, Yahweh does, man, the Most High. He likes everything done decently and in order. All right. Why? Because he's present within our lives now. All right. So we just can't do anything that we want to do now. Same thing when you look at it, in your upbringing, man. When your father is present. And now, of course, this isn't every case, but majority of the cases it is. When the father is present, he establishes order within the household, man. And it says, "But the curse of the mother rooteth out foundations." You see? So the so-called black woman, this is her favorite thing to do. It's caused chaos, man. Just brings confusion. Whenever you see a so-called black woman, you see confusion, man. It's right along with it. All right. But the curse of the mother ruled out the foundation. So even if, your father was present, and you know who he is, and you had an upbringing, but say him and your mother, split, got a divorce or whatever the case may be. Everything that, your father taught you, your mother tries to uproot it. She tries to, denounce, sort of, for lack of better terms, his words. But Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, he's gonna get the last say so when it comes to that, man, because in the kingdom, it's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be totally opposite of it. All right. Verse 10, glory not in the dishonor of thy father. Yeah, because the scriptures say, we're supposed to honor. It says, honor your father and your mother, for you shall have longer, the days shall be prolonged. So you're always supposed to have that, respect for your father, especially, as you get, up in age, you start getting understanding of life, because you got to realize that, hey, ain't nobody perfect. Nobody's perfect, man. We all, slip. We all make mistakes, but the point being is, hey, your father was present, or, even if he wasn't present, these mothers, they uproot the foundations, man. They join with Esau Satan. All right. So they may speak they're gonna speak totally against you about your father, but it really it was all her. Seeing a post, which kind of sparked me to speak on this. It said, as I got older, I realized why my father, left. Or I understand, why my father left. And we should really have that same mindset, because if we want mercy, from Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, hey, we have to extend mercy to others as well. Verse 11, for the glory of a man is from the honor of his father, and a mother in dishonor is a reproach to children. You see? So from here, I'm going to go to, what is that? Yeah. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 9. It says, know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. And the one word I want to get here is effeminate. Matter of fact, let me go to the Bible Blue Letter, so I can pull it up. Salaki. And the Greek is G3120, Malakos. And it says soft to the touch. You see? So soft. And a lot of men, street niggas, drug dealers, so on and so forth, are so emotional because they were raised by their moms. You can't have a conversation with them without it being an argument. Just soft, effeminate, man. And that's going back to, Sirach, the 3rd chapter, on, the mother bringing, the curse. She uproots the foundation, man, because a lot of men, you know, who were raised by their father, who got their fathers in their lives, you know, they have respect. You know, they have honor. You know, they have some type of dignity, you know, or integrity, you know, when it comes to certain things. Not saying that they're not wicked, you know, but it's a level of, you know, you know how to carry yourself, you know. But when the mother is there and there's no father around, these guys are effeminate, man. You know, they act like women. You know, they talk like women. They turn out to be moles, especially here in Atlanta, man. It's a lot of down low niggas here, man. You know, and this is a continual cycle throughout the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, mainly, you know, black, you know, community, man. You know, this is why the Lord has to do a refreshing, man. All right, so I just wanted to briefly touch on that. You know, Lord willing, it was edifying. I'm going to go ahead and close up by giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Till the next time, shalom.